Yo, what's going on everyone? So it's officially been a month since I picked up the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. And I've gotten a lot of use out of the device, but more so than anything, I've gotten just as many comments from people asking my opinion of the product. I've been using it for 30 days. How does it stack up to other controllers I've used? And is it worthy of the investment? And that's the best way I think we can dive into this video, talking about the Switch as an investment. Yeah, I do not throw that term investment around lightly because the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, as I'm sure y'all have seen, this is a pretty expensive product. This is not cheap. This is $69.99 over here in the States. And in some cases, I've seen it go upwards of like $75, $80 with some of the special edition variants like the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 edition. This thing is more expensive than the competition's controllers. This costs more than full price Switch games. So how in the world is Nintendo going to justify such an egregious price tag for this controller? As it stands, yeah, they really haven't. There is nothing about the Nintendo Switch Pro controller that warrants the extra money. There is nothing about this controller that sets it apart from the competition. And as it stands, this is probably going to be the most expensive peripheral you pick up with your Switch. That being said, the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, despite its high price tag, is freaking awesome. It is amazing and it goes down as one of my favorite controllers. So to really understand where I'm coming from with the Nintendo Switch Pro controller and why I love it so much, we have to talk about the default input as it comes to controllers with Switch. And I'm of course talking about the JoyCons. I have them here in the Joy-Con grip attachment. The JoyCons are great peripherals. I really do like them, whether I'm playing them in handheld mode, tabletop mode. The amount of freedom that exists with the JoyCons is something we really haven't experienced in gaming in a long time. I'd say ever. Just the freedom that exists with, you being able to have complete control of your games, whether you're playing it on the couch and you have one arm lying off the couch and then one arm on the top portion of it. You can do so much with that, and it's something that I really didn't appreciate until I started playing it, and I realized it didn't have to be confined to holding the controller like this. That being said, the Joy-Cons are not for everybody, especially if you are an individual who wants a more traditional experience, and if you're playing it in two-player mode and you have big hands like me, yeah, the Joy-Cons are not going to be your friend. So here we have the grip attachment. This was included with the Nintendo Switch, and while it does provide a more familiar gaming experience, as you can see here, it is extremely cramped. Just playing like this is not natural. It does not feel right. Maybe in short bursts you'll find enjoyment out of it because it's not a big deal, and hey, it did come free. But playing with this is probably the worst time I've had with Nintendo Switch because it's not natural. It doesn't feel good. Like these grips that they have, like the grooves in the controller, it just doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm going out of my way to play something. I could have just taken off the Joy-Cons and had more fun with this. So as it stands, I do not recommend using the grip attachment. So now we enter the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, Nintendo's answer to the core gamer, the people who just wanted a normal freaking controller, something that aliens didn't design. This thing right here is just that. Now, as I'm sure you can see, judging off of the physical attributes, this looks very familiar to a couple of controllers we've seen. More specifically, the Xbox 360 controller. I think that's the controller that a lot of people have been taking inspiration from in terms of design, if not for its bulky aesthetic, but for how comfortable it feels in the hands, having the grooves right here and the analog stick placements. The 360 controller still to this day remains one of my favorite ones. And that's why I love the Switch so freaking much. The face buttons up here are freaking massive. I really do appreciate that in comparison to how tiny they are on the Joy-Con. And throughout this review, it's gonna sound like I'm being very negative towards the Joy-Con. I really do enjoy playing that, but in terms of long-term gaming sessions, whether I'm playing a 3-hour run of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or I'm playing Mario Kart, these little buttons right here really get irritating. So this right here is great for that. Every single time I'm playing the Switch in docked mode, I opt for this controller. It's just so comfortable in the hands. Everything feels right. Everything feels where it's supposed to be. And even when I'm taking some extended trips, like let's say I'm going out of state and I'm going to be away from my home unit, I'll actually pack this Pro Controller with me just to get some gaming on the Switch. I know you can call that a first world problem, but it's so freaking comfortable and I've gotten spoiled by this. Now, in terms of some of the things that the Switch controller does differently than the competition, it does include an NFC reader for your Amiibo. So for people who care about that, there you go. And it also does have Nintendo's new HD Rumble. Now, this is where I kind of go into some of my complaints about the system. I'm going to go from the least to the major ones. The HD Rumble on this, all right, I understand that Nintendo's new philosophy is to really immerse you in this experience. So they included their HD Rumble from the JoyCons in the Switch Pro Controller. But as it stands, the vibrations here feel really cheap by comparison to Xbox or PlayStation. I know that this has to do with the fact that the size of the controller is different than the Joy-Cons. Maybe Nintendo didn't calibrate it correctly, but it feels so weird when you're looking at the vibrations when you're playing like one game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and you're doing your specials. The vibrations on the Joy-Cons feel just right, but here they feel really phoned in. I don't know. It was just something that threw me off. The next major complaint I have for the controller is the fact that it does not include analog triggers. These things right here are digital. Now, for those of you guys who are unaware of what digital triggers are and why people do not like them, say for example you're playing a game such as a first-person shooter where you can control the rate at which your gun fires. Things that are done pressure sensitive. The Switch Pro Controller and the Switch Joy-Cons, you do not get that ability. So those sort of games, you only have one basic output. You can't control anything. This opens up some problems if Nintendo decides to bring back GameCube games, because if you're playing a game like Super Mario Sunshine where you can actually control the speed at which Mario shoots FLUDD, you can't do that here. You just can't. Maybe down the road they might do a Switch Pro Controller V2, a tournament edition where they include actual analog triggers, but as it stands, these right here, no go for those sort of games. So when it comes to like shooters that I would pick up on a platform, I'd much rather play them on PC with mouse and keyboard or playing it on a DualShock 4 Xbox controller just because of those triggers. But other than that, the only other nitpick that I have would have to be the D-pad right here. It's not up to snuff when it comes to past Nintendo D-pads. It's a heck of a lot better than the Joy-Cons, which as you see here are just 4 directional buttons, but Nintendo has put out better D-pads in the past. But as it stands, the controller itself is fine. Everything works great. The analog sticks are actual analog sticks. They are clickable, and the buttons have really nice clicky tactile feedback, so that right there is a plus. And probably the biggest reason why I would recommend picking up the Pro Controller if you are a core gamer is how much freaking battery this thing puts out. Yo, I bought this controller towards the end of November. I just now put it on the charger. That is a month of playtime, and I was playing it pretty extensively. Nowhere near like 2 to 3 days in a row of 8-hour sessions, but I was playing it for a good couple hours per week, you know, more than I would say the DualShock 4 where I have to charge that controller every couple days. This thing right here, bare minimum, is going to net you 35 to 40 hours of playtime. And if you spread that out throughout the course of the month, if you're doing maybe 5 to 10 hours of gaming a week, that equates to 1 charge a month. That right there is freaking phenomenal. I've heard just as many positive things about the Wii U Pro Controller, so I guess that's where this thing gets all of its cred from. But yeah, as it stands, this thing has the best battery performance on the market for a rechargeable device. Like, I love the DualShock 4. It is one of my favorite controllers as well. But that battery being under 10 hours is kind of a detriment. It's part of the reason why I own multiple DualShock 4s, because I don't want to have to wait for them to charge, or I don't want to have to wait with the cable tethered to the console. But this thing right here, I do not have to worry about it. I could just pick it up, play it, and then once I see the battery start going red, that's when I charge it. And like I said, it's 30 days of playtime, so that right there is freaking great if you are playing it casually or moderately. And if you're playing it hardcore, you probably only have to charge this maybe once every 2 weeks. So yeah, definite plus on that. So as it stands, would I recommend the Switch Pro Controller? To be honest, yes, I would recommend it wholeheartedly. I would recommend picking this up with your Nintendo Switch if you're going to be playing a lot. Yes, it is expensive. Yes, it costs $70+. And while they don't have stuff in here that warrants it, I mean, they have a gyroscope so you can play motion controls like Splatoon 2. I still do think with the amount of playtime people are going to get from games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda, Skyrim, you want to get the best control style out of it. And if you are cool with the Joy-Con standalone or in the grip, more power to you. There are alternatives that exist, like the $29.99 wired Pro Controller from, well, you can't even say it's a Pro Controller, but the wired Switch controller from Hori. You can get those as well, but to be honest, man, this thing right here, it's just worth the $70. It's one of those things that you're gonna buy it and you're never going to have to look back. And the more you own the product, the more you realize, dang, this is actually worth the price. As high of a price tag as it is. Anyways, from me for now, my name is NGS signing out. Let me know down below in the comment section if you've picked up the Pro Controller. Let me know what you think about it. From me for now, my name is NGS signing out, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.